Hi friends, this is DaintyTank. Thank you for joining me again today to part 5. I can never... Oh my god. I actually do like web development and like do things with numbers all day long. And like keeping track of a simple series is kind of blowing my mind. I don't know what's going on. Anyways, I think it's part 5. The testimony of Trixie Glimmer Smith. And you can put Totoro up in the iCard area. Over there. Do it. Click it. By now, if you're like watching, this is something you've been into. Hopefully you're into it, because I'm having a lot of fun. I hope you guys are too. It's 1,000,000,000 degrees, so I'm wearing a muscle tank today! Yay! I know it says Hogwarts again. Trans people are valid, trans people are awesome. Trixie's trans, which we learned last time, which is awesome. Love the representation on this game. It's awesome. Alright, with that, we're gonna get back in. I think we are starting off exactly where we left off, which was we had just gotten back from another creepy incident in which I think it was Greg with a box on his head, on their head. Greg with a box on their head jumped us. I don't understand. But anyways, I'm interested in where this is gonna go. Also, you see I was a little uncomfortable last time, like I think my lips were drying out, so got something to grease my labia. And yes, it's called a labia. You're welcome. Plus, got something to drink. Alright. I was about to message Heidi, but remembered she would probably prefer it called so she could yell at me if she felt like it. Sup, Trixie? Hey, I was wondering if you wanted me to come down today. Give you a hand? You're burning stuff, right? I like burning things a lot, so I probably qualified for that role. Sorry to disappoint you, little Miss Arsonist, but I'm putting off Eclipsed contingency for a day. I've got a court appearance to deal with the whole arson threat thing I did, which I guess makes me a little Miss Arsonist. Don't tell anybody I call myself Little Miss. I have a taser. No, that's a pain. Well, have fun with that, I guess. Will do. You take care, okay? Okay, bye. She got up early. Okay. I sighed with nothing to distract me. There was nothing else for it. I'd have to face up to Nikita. Right on cue, there was a knock on my door. Trixie Glimmer Smith, open up! I gulped. Just what I needed. She was knocking pretty hard. Maybe she was planning to break in and kill me with whatever weapon she got a hold of today. I knew knocking would attract unwanted attention if it continued. I couldn't bring more people into this mess. Nikita was my problem to deal with. I opened the door, accepting my fate. Shoosh. Trixie. Have you seen my cardigan anywhere? As much as I'd loathe to admit it. You've been to Daffodil Lane, haven't you, Nikita? I could tell she had. She kept sniffling, as if she was dealing with some allergies. Something seemed to click in her, as if she only just remembered what she'd been doing all night. Had she totally forgotten about our fight? Well, you might think that, but I couldn't possibly comment. You think pretty smart, don't you, Trixie? But no, I wasn't there, idiot. Look, Nikita, I'm going to stop you. I won't let you hurt yourself, and more importantly, possibly me. Oh, Trixie, you're far too late for that. I already have the exact position of the intersection between our world and the White Gate. The book, Reaching Other Worlds, was most illuminating. The midpoint between the 3 standing stones in this county. The cottage on Daffodil Lane. I need only bide my time and wait. And then the throne will be mine. Wait, what? Silence, wretch! I've already said too much. Suffice to say, my ideals have been vindicated. While you gulped at ghost hentai I studied in the library. Your fate is your own making, Trixie. Maybe you should just accept that I've won. I will sit on the throne, Not you. But I don't want to sit on the throne. Nikita, you need to... You're not making sense. Silence! Silence, silence, silence! You read the kingdom... You've read it, what I have. You know what I speak is gospel. And the throne is mine. Whoo! She took off, running back to wherever she came from. Not being hugely athletic, she seemed to run out of breath before the end of the hallway, where she slinked off, panting. At least this had confirmed it. Nikita had a plan. I sighed, realizing it was up to me to stop her. What was it Nikita had said about Daffodil Lane? It sat in the midpoint of 3 standing stones. Is that true? It didn't sound at all right. I checked out the map on my wall. Nikita was right. The cottage on Daffodil Lane, the place this had all started, was at the direct center of the standing stones. More or less, anyway. Maybe, if you accounted for the tectonic movement and stuff. It was close enough. I gasped. Nikita was right. She needed only wait and what? I realized I had no idea what she planned to do with this information. She had mentioned the library. Of course, Nikita was always in the library. So that was no surprise, but perhaps there was a way to stop her hidden in those thousands of books? Might be my only chance. I had to read books. Oh no, she has to read books. Oh. I was straight to the hospital. Oh, pause. Oh, sorry about that. It kind of blew up for a second. Allergies are kind of getting me. Ooh. Anyway, I rushed straight into the library. There was no time to lose. They always shut early on the weekend. I quickly went through the shelves. I might be relevant myths local. I went through the shelves that I thought might be relevant. Myths, local history, literature. I wanted to find the book Nikita had mentioned, Reaching Other Worlds. And I'd never heard of it before, but it sounded like it would be of use to me too. Reaching Another World was Nikita's aim, after all. I found the shelf. It had to be on end. There was nothing. Nikita must have come here first and taken it, so I couldn't find out how to stop her. I panicked. If she was actively trying to stop me, there was nothing I could do. Nikita was smarter than me, and driven like one possessed by obsession with that cursed play. My eyes remained locked on the spot the book should have been. I felt my body grow numb. Was I too late? Ugh. I could see her even now in my thoughts, the book ablaze as Nikita continued with her evil plotting. The gnarled hand of the king, guiding her to the decaying imperial palace of Carcosa and the Broken Throne. I realized I was crying. And then I realized I was looking directly at the book. It was 3 places over from where it should have been. It must have been misplaced by an uncaring student or busy librarian. Trembling, I reached for the book and softly caressed its spine. It was real. I took it from the shelf and wiped the tears from my face, ashamed. Glancing at the great clock at the entrance, I realized I stood at the same spot for close to an hour. Something was horribly wrong with me. I dropped my collection down onto a secluded desk. Half of the stuff didn't seem to be all that relevant, but it was better to be thorough. I thought I'd better skim the books and work out, which I had time for before I could actually start reading. I wouldn't have time for all of them. I checked the clock. There was about 5 hours left until the librarians kicked me out. Woo! Okay. This is a lot. Click. Okay. Okay, Bluefield's History Society presents Bluefields County Cryptids of the South and now. Rosefield Quarry, Mysterious Lake, nah. Cursed Play, Study of the King in Yellow, Reaching Other Worlds for sure, and I think Villenheim notes. Let's take a look at Villenheim notes first. Villenheim Notes was a collection of notes written by the infamous Great Inquisitor, traitor of the Inquisition, supposed author of the original transcript of The King in Yellow. It's a pretty poor translation, and the original text was near incomprehensible to begin, and with so much, and was so desperate its short length reading would have been about 3 hours. Looks at another book. Okay. We gotta definitely read this one. So, Reaching Other Worlds seemed to have been based on Dark Age grimoire written by a bird scholar at the tail edge of the age. Nikita seemed set on reading Carcosa. On reaching Carcosa, I thought it might help me understand if it was possible, or how she planned to achieve it. It was short, and would only take an hour to read. Done. We're doing that one. Reaching other worlds. Endless worlds weave and twist throughout reality, unreality, and the forbidden places between. Only at points where these strings draw close can one pass through to the other side. Powerful psychic beacon is required to pull the two worlds taut, intertwine them for long enough for a crossing. Bleakwind Spire is said to be the brightest of these beacons, at least on our world, but its current ruined state is useless. The carrion crows of the Blackwood of Brennenburg used their own natural psychic influence to shield themselves from the horrors of the Brennenburg succession wars. For the planewalkers of the Abenith in the ancient times, powerful psychic crystals were most commonly used in pairs. Psychic crystals, the green psychic crystal. Fun. Singularly, they would bind the worlds, but when paired, they would nullify each other, preventing others from traveling to or from the area. It was said that this was how the Court of Despair remained hidden forever in the Cathedral of Teeth. I gasped. A librarian shushed me. I knew Nikita wanted to reach Carcosa, but I now realized quite how close she might be. All these materials will usually require, except for the psychic crystals. But I now knew where Tabby's missing crystal was. Nikita had taken it. I always assumed they were phony glass toys, but now the second crystal would create a dissonance with the first. If I could just get a hold of one, I could prevent Nikita's ritual from working. I began hurriedly messaging Tabby. Hey, Tabby, you there? Hi, Trix. You gonna have a spare psychic crystal? I have bad energies that might help me. You don't need to end everything with a question mark? Yeah, though. You can borrow one. My energies are balanced right now, and the moon's eye is still closed for a while, so I don't need to stop it watching me. I can slide it under your door if you want. I'm going out for a few days to stargaze on the Isle of Wight and talk to some sheep friends. Yes, please. Sorry, Tabby. I better get back to work. Thank you so much. Talk to you when you're back? Yes. Put my phone away without checking for a response. There was no time right now, but at least I was making some progress. Things didn't seem as hopeless. Checked the clock. There was about 4 hours left until the librarians kicked me out. Took a look at... Okay. That was definitely a good one. No, it didn't mean that. Whatever. What is this one? Seemed a brief rundown of some local folklore. It was pretty short, so probably take only about an hour or so to read. Okay. Check the clock. Okay. I don't think these are that relevant, nor that. I think the let's look at the curse play. Thesis of some kind definitely looked relevant. I kind of suck at reading academic tests, so I knew it would probably take 3 hours for me to read, though it was short. Okay. Check the clock. Okay. So it's basically Wilhelm notes or that. Collection stories. It seems very important to know that. Okay. I am actually going to use my time on the Wilhelm notes. The Wilhelm notes. It began when I led a small number of the first chapter, the Order of Mercy, to the cursed chapel outside the Bluefields town. In the ensuing fight against the cultists of the Yellow Eye, I was wounded, pitchfork to my side. I stumbled away from the battle. Blood stained my purple robes, a dark brown, and found myself facing one of the site's many altars. Emblazoned on it, the yellow sign. As I left consciousness, the yellow sign still staring into me, I slipped into somewhere dark. When I first saw Carcosa in its rolling state, I knew I had glimpsed on unimaginable terror. I walked the streets of that city for decades, centuries even, from the top of the Imperial Palace to the deepest depths of the Twilight Quarter, where abominations long forgotten crumbled to dust underneath the perpetual darkness of Lake Alley. It was a city drenched in evil. When at last I returned to consciousness, I awoke in a pile of bodies, and presumed dead, I dragged myself away from the terrible place and made my escape into the woods. Ugh. I would later return with the 4th chapter, the Order of Retribution and Purification, and burn alive each of the cultists. I foolishly believed this would end the whispers in my head. Still they continued. Dismay, I returned to my home and inflicted punishment on myself for this heresy. But when the voices remained, I gave into my weakness and listened. Finally realized what was being whispered to me, and was filled with a manic intent to lay it into parchment. The words flowed into my mind and onto the page. For 3 days I wrote without rest, food, or breath. When finally the manuscript was completed, I bound it in preserved snakeskin, the only remains of that ancient people. I looked upon my work, seeing it with my own eyes for the first time. I had written The King in Yellow. Later, a gift was presented to me. The mask of a pale servant, one eye looking out to the future, and one blinded by the first ruby to be mined from the quarry that would become the Twilight Quarter, and forced only to remember the past. Oh, so that's the mask that Heidi has. The white, china-like mask, inlaid with gold, mined from the great moon of Carcosa. It was terrible to behold, for I knew who had delivered it to me. Whispers from the king tell me that they who possess the mask are blessed to walk his path and claim the broken throne for themselves. The mask was lost to me. Stolen. Mercy of the wretched. Mercy on the wretch who finds it. Yup, it's Heidi's mask. For sure. Like, to a T. Sheesh. I would need to see it in person again to be sure, but the description was certainly familiar. I checked the clock. There was about 1 hour left until the librarians checked me out. Okay. Now we're gonna do the, myths. I don't know if that's actually helpful, but we're gonna do it. Bluefields County myths seem to be a brief rundown of some local folklore. It's pretty short, so it'd probably take an hour. Read it. Bluefields County History Society presents Bluefields County Myths. North Acres in the Dark Age. Like much of the county, Avigton suffered terribly from the famines brought on by the Dark Age. Okay. So the Dark Age is kind of what was the vision she had. This is fascinating. Okay. Their troubles were short-lived, however, after the arrival of a strange guest. Not much is known about the mysterious visitor, but the locals supposedly used their help to contact a strange and ancient entity of the woods, the antlered tree. After this, their woes were no more. They waited out the end of the Dark Age in a comparative comfort, a rare occurrence in these terrible times. Did the antlered tree bless the villagers of Avigton with a successful harvest? Unlikely, given the village imported all of its food. Did it simply gift them with food? Maybe. Was this entity simply a story to cover up Avigton's true evil, preying on travelers and raiding nearby towns? Probably, according to most scholars. But even so, the area remains shrouded in secrets. Perhaps there was more to it than meets the eye. Tale of the Man and the Witches. A local man wished more than anything to be beautiful and strong so he could woo local damsels. He sought out the Salt Sisters of Parsnip, with the witches only laughed and cast a cruel spell on him. The witches then summoned evil void wraiths to chase the man away into the wilderness, where he succumbed to the witches' terrible hex. Some say this man would go on to become the terrifying Mr. Springy? How would you name something terrifying Mr. Springy? Whatever. But this is obviously untrue, as Mr. Springy is way too hecked up to be in a silly kid's story. Okay. Jeez. Okay, here we go. The Screaming Sewers of Bluefields Town. Bluefield Town was briefly re-established as the administrative center of the county under the Brandenburg dynasty for several years, while London was rebuilt after the Inheritance War. I'd probably make a lot more sense to me if I was from the UK, because they're using pounds, so for sure they're based in the UK. So maybe some of this makes more sense to someone who's more familiar with kind of some of the more local information around the UK. Here we go. Several buildings from the period remain, sporting classic Brandenburg architecture, the town hall, gallery, and flower gardens being particularly distinctive examples. Of course, not all of the empire's influence on the town was positive. Many rebellious locals were dragged to the city dungeons during this brief reign here. Screams and wails were said to emanate from the town sewer system, and his terrible torturers pried the poor prisoners for information, or sometimes merely for fun. Shrouded in mystery, the dungeons were eventually unearthed in 1956, but were soon sealed with concrete. The council did not give a reason why, but we can assume they were a structural weakness beneath the town. Though some say on cold winter nights, screams still emanate from underground on lonely streets. The King in Yellow. The infamous Villenheim is said to have first penned the King in Yellow in a manor just outside Bluefield's town. The manor burnt down in the late 1800s, so any evidence of this has long since been destroyed. Plays ties to the county did not end there. Copies of the play are found more frequently here than anywhere else across the world, with a notable incident being its discovery in the Bluebell University's library. What? The dean, a superstitious fellow, ordered it burnt unopened when a student brought it to him. Said student was also expelled in mysterious circumstances. The dean was fired soon after, apparently for the unfair expulsion. The student disappeared before they could be inducted into their course. Interesting read, but not particularly helpful. No way even would the dean expel Nikita, so she was the only thing keeping us. Besides, at this point, I don't think Nikita would care. Point. I realized around out of time. Quickly put the books away and left. I ended up back in my room. I just needed sleep. This week was killing me. When was the last time I slept properly? I walked through my door and almost tripped over something. There's a little velvet bag on the floor. Someone had slid it under my door. Oh, great. Has Nikita been sneaking anthrax to my room or something? Nervously, I picked up the bag and realized I'm relieved to feel a hard crystal inside. This must have been Tabby's sacred crystal. Oh, thank you, Tabby. You're a lifesaver. Probably literally. I carefully put the crystal into my bag. It might be the only thing that can help me. I was going to have some noodles to eat, but I couldn't get the packet open without scissors, thanks to my weak little arms. I had no idea where my scissors had gone. I probably put them in my bag and lost them while I was walking about or something. In the end, I just had to eat crisps. This week was really taking its toll on my diet. Needed time to digest what I had read. I was too tired to do anything practical to deal with Nikita tonight. No doubt she was slinking around the university or holed up in her room plotting. That night, there were no dreams. There was only darkness. I woke up as tired as ever. I wanted to check the internet for news and convinced I'd find a photograph of a disheveled Nikita being bundled into a police van after committing some atrocity in the name of the Broken Throne. Before I could switch my laptop on, something strange caught my eye. On my bedroom wall was a scribbled pencil drawing of what seemed to be Nikita. Above her, 2 floating skulls surrounded by a cloud. Had I drawn this? My room didn't look like it had been broken into. It was my art style. Not that I have one. I realized I was getting dangerously unhinged. I had to stop Nikita. Only then could I start to recover. Fortunately, it looked like Nikita hadn't been arrested for any terrible crimes. Unfortunately, this meant that she was still my problem alone. Yesterday, Nikita had, well, not admitted to being at Daffodil Lane, but it was fairly obvious she had been. I was pretty sure she wanted to open a portal to the White Gate of Haley and its cursed basement. I needed to know if she had done anything there. Maybe I could find a way to stop her. I ate some sugar flakes and got ready for another long walk to Daffodil Lane. Oh. Shh. Ooh, here we go. I arrived at Daffodil Lane, only to be greeted by a loud caw, the mangy magpie again. The caw sounded like it came from near the creepy college, as if it was calling for me. Tried to spot the magpie, but there was nowhere to be seen. Oh god, Parsnip. Oh god, Parsnip. Hi, Trixie. Heck. I spun around and screamed. Directly behind me, less than half a meter away, stood Parsnip. Oh no! Please, no bad words. This is a no bully zone. Sorry, Parsnip, you just scared me is all. I didn't expect you to be stood directly behind me like that. No one ever does. I'm very quiet. Oh god. I couldn't help but feel slightly creeped out by that. I turned around to look at the magpie. I was sure I could feel their beady white eyes locked on me, but they were nowhere to be seen. Reluctantly, I turned back to Parsnip, he was grinning excitedly, and I noticed he had a picnic basket with him. What's the picnic basket? I'm having a picnic. Would you like to come, friend? The sound turned and changed. Now it's like trumpet. Is this based on his trumpeting from before? Oh, I was kind of hungry, but I felt like I should probably get on with stopping Nikita. Whoa. Go with Parsnip. Yeah, I guess I could hang out for a little while. Yay! Oh well, I'm so excited. Let's go. Ask Rosie if she would like to come too. Okay, I can't be too long though. Pretty busy, so all day picnic. Oh no. He skipped off to LeRose's cottage. I started agreeing to this, but followed along anyway. I eventually caught up to Parsnip. He was knocking on LeRose's door and bouncing excitedly. I saw LeRose peering out of her window between a crack in the curtains before receding back to the darkness of her cottage. I got the impression she didn't want to be involved. I don't think LeRose is home, Parsnip. Maybe we should get going. It's a loud crash from inside. Heck's sake! Easel cunt! If you're not going to stay standing up when you... Why? Oh my god. If you're not gonna stay standing up, why even live? Distinctive sound of the easel being snapped in half. I think it was an easel being snapped in half. Not sure what gave me that impression. You're right. I don't think she's in. I was starting to doubt how much Parsnip existed in our plane of reality. I guess just you and me, friend. He pulled out a friendship yarn out of his bag and waved at me. You still have yours, right? Right? I rummaged through my stuff and pulled out the yarn. It was slightly worse for wear after a few days in my bag, but Parsnip's face lit up. Nevertheless, when I gently wiggled it. Never threw away this present. Yay! Oh yay, what a great friendship. I was glad to have diffused the situation. I didn't want to get on Parsnip's bad side. He seemed slightly unstable. Let's get on with the picnic. Follow me into the wheat field, friend. The wheat field wasn't a great spot, given that the wheat hadn't been cut, but it was at least somewhat shady and between the crops. Parsnip had giggled as he trampled through the field to the picnic spot. He seemed to be sorry. Oh, so much reading. He seemed to find running through the field of wheat strangely naughty. Why is specifically naughty? Whatever. Parsnip started to unpack his picnic camper, and I have to admit, I was slightly dreading what he might pull out. To my surprise, what he did get out looked pretty good. A tray of cupcakes, each decorated with different colored icing and sprinkles. A few even had chocolate chips and flakes in them. Things were looking up. He got a picture of water out of the basket. Somehow, it hadn't spilled inside, despite being sideways and having no lid, possibly defying the laws of physics. He poured the water into a pair of plastic cups, handed me a red one. I thanked him and took a sip. The water was surprisingly nice, and very cold. I thought this might turn out to be nice after all. I thought I'd soon come to regret. At this point, Parsnip got a bag of Sugar Daddy icing sugar out of his hamper and poured a good 100 grams into his cup. Whew. Sugar partially dissolved into the water, but most of it settled at the bottom of the cup. I grimaced at the thought of drinking it. Would you like some sugar? No thanks. No, that's okay, Parsnip. Thanks for the offer. Then try some cake. I looked at the cupcakes. They were about 10 on a shared plate. They had different colored icing and decorations. They looked pretty, if a little sickly. That said, something about them felt off. Saving on this. Because when I played Parsnip, his cakes killed people. Alright, let's try eating the food, and if I get sick, I have this saved. Cautiously picked up a small cupcake. On the surface it looked fine, but something about it fell off. Parsnip didn't seem like the kind of person who would make a good baker. Regardless, it was too late now. Parsnip was looking at me expectantly with big pleading eyes. He was clearly proud of his work, and I felt like a little bad at the thought of disappointing him. Took a small bite out of the cupcake, and the sponge crumbled like ash in my mouth. Sugar crumbled down my throat and threatened to choke me. The taste of the decay filled my mouth and I gagged. Gah! Spat the cake out on the wheat fill and grabbed the much. Ooh. Had I imagined that? Could the cake really be that bad? Oh my god. Parsnip stared at me, blinking. His smile completely unchanged. We both sat in silence for a moment when I regained my breath. So, did you like it? Said yes. I decided it was best to lie, but I didn't want to hurt Parsnip's feelings. Thanks, that rocks. I managed to choked out between breaths. Great! Have a taste of the rest. I worked really hard. I watched Parsnip start to nibble tiny bits off of other cakes, then put them back on the shared plate. He didn't seem to have taken in anything I had said. He would cycle through cakes, eating only little bits of each at a time. Occasionally, he would take a sip of sugar water by clumsily holding out the plastic cup between his big paws, usually spilling some of the sticky water on himself. Doesn't seem to mind. I watched Parsnip nibble on his food in silence until he finished, at which point he fell over backwards asleep. Good night, Parsnip. Something was bothering me about Parsnip. He felt fundamentally wrong. I shook off the feeling. Parsnip was strange, but harmless. I left him snoring and wriggling to himself in his sleep. Snuck away only to run straight into LeRose. Ah! How long have you been there? We need to talk. It was an incredibly ominous conversation starter. Okay. Here? Peered down, snoozing Parsnip. Judging by his sniffling nose and munching noises, he was dreaming about food. My place. Okay. She started walking off. It sounded serious. Yep. Went with LeRose. The cottage could wait a little longer. I silently followed LeRose to her cottage. Things felt really intense. So Parsnip has given you one of those strings too, then? How long has she been watching us? Wait, is that what this is about? Kind of. There was a long silence while my brain tried to process things. It's just you seemed really pretty intense. I was kind of worried. I mean, well, it is important. A bit. The yarn. Do you have one as well? I have at least 20. When I woke up this morning, there was 3 poking through my letterbox. Well, I feel like that really devalues my friendship with Parsnip. I'm considering using them as a makeshift news. Wait, was that a joke? Sure. So far, all I've been able to do is hover them up and burn the bags. Hoover them up and burn the bags. Like my students, Parsnip is not receptive of criticism. So anyway, I wanted to ask for your help. I really need to get rid of Parsnip. So are you trying to get me to kill Parsnip? He's weird, sure, but there's a little much, don't you think? What? No, don't be ridiculous. No. I was just going to, ask if you'd, throw him in a bush and tell him to leave me alone. stared at LeRose, slightly dumbfounded. You want me to assault him? What? I continued to stare at her, dumbfounded. No, like, badly. You've spoken to him, right? Just push him into a bush really carefully and be like, hey, leave LeRose alone or the boys will get you, and that should be enough to spook him. Are you okay? I'm fine. Look, living next door to Parsnip is slowly killing me. I used to drink 30, maybe 40 units of alcohol a day. Now I'm up to, like, maybe 60. Look, will you just give it a go? I can't live like this much longer. I understand, but Parsnip terrifies me. So I'm going to decline this request. Sorry, LeRose, but I'm not going to push your neighbor into a bush. He'll get bored soon, I'm sure. Well, I'm disappointed. She sighed. Well, thanks anyway. I better get painting. I'll see you around. I felt a little bad abandoning LeRose to her face, but pushing Parsnip over seemed a little too mean, even for my morally bankrupt self. I sighed. I'd been fretting around for too long and reluctantly got on with my business. Stood in front of the abandoned cottage. The gateway to Carcosa. I needed to make sure Nikita hadn't done anything here. This cottage might be the only place I could stop her. The upstairs seemed pretty much as I had left it. I knew I was going to have to go downstairs, not a fun thought. Memories of my last visit still swam in my mind. Fuzz. It was time to accept my fate and return to the basement where all of this started. The skull sat in the same position as before. I almost started to believe I really had imagined them speaking to me. But before I could step any further into the room, they snapped around to face me. My heart sunk as I realized returning here was a mistake. Ugh. Another guest. The little rat returns. Hello, friend. I was frozen. Whether by shock or by the ghost's design, I didn't know. Please, I'm not here to bother you. Your friend, yes. The deer was here, searching for a gate she found. Already present, the yellow sign. Creator, I am. Forever, never to be removed, no matter how much I tear at its paint. The gate is present, it needs only a key. No more preparations are needed, only the moonlight of a full moon, if what the deer seeks is true. I believe a couple came, for I too require tonight's white light. Reunite, broken body, no more. If the deer speaks true, then endless, ashen terrors, crawling forth from the lake. I wrapped pointed fingers of the king, leading them. The decay will spread, the rot. Then I was too late to prevent Nikita performing her ritual. It would be up to me in person, a battle I would probably lose. I spent a lot of time studying the moon. It was pretty important to a lot of myths, especially around here. I knew very well that the next full moon was tomorrow. Okay, well, that's all I need to know, so I'll just be out of your scalp bone. I started to run from the basement, but leave not, little white rat. I stopped in my tracks, and not by choice. Golden glow clung to my body, holding me totally still. Moonbeam, Heidi, Trixie Glimmer Smith, all one. You will return what you stole. My body froze. The ghost knew about me and Heidi. It knew about Moonbeam. I had robbed it. I remembered the night in the alley, the golden eyes and the matted figure. I remember the glint of the recognition when the figure had laid eyes on my face. You? The grimoire. The shop. Return there. Finish our deal, or the hyena will perish. Skulls shuddered into dust. Any evidence of their existence turned to a fine bone powder that joined the spores and dust in their toxic dance. I was thrown to the ground as the gold mist floated out of the basement like snow in the breeze. I climbed to my feet, my head ringing. I must have hit it when I fell. I made my way outside and caught my breath. There was no time for anything else. Right now, I had to stop Heidi. Tried to phone her. There was no answer. It looked like I was going to have to run all the way to town. The windows of Heidi's shop were blinded and its sign read closed. Someone didn't want intruders. My heart dropped. Was I too late? Summoning all my courage, I burst inside. Oh heck. I was too late. Heidi had been pinned to the spot and her weapons were discarded on the floor. The shop gently shook with the same force that had infested the abandoned cottage. It looked like the boxes from the office had been pulled into the shop. Items were thrown from them, as if the ghosts were searching for something. On the floor lay the lifeless, matted figure, their bodies still hidden beneath their thick coat. Trixie, get out of here! The white one arrives. The pale rat. Thank you, friend. Placate your associate. Aid me. And all shall be fine. I was terrified. This got out of hand. Heidi, calm down. They need our help. Then they'll leave us alone. They promised. I wasn't sure if I believed them, but it was my only way out. Please put her down. She'll behave. Right, Heidi? I gulped. She looked pissed. Fine. Very well. Behave, little hyena. Heidi dropped to the floor as the golden globe pulled away from her. Her bat and taser lifted into the air as if yanked on strings. Heidi's weapons were thrown into the air. The bat splintered, shattered shards of wood across the shop as the taser, seemingly imploded, fell to the floor with a dull thud. The deal, rat. The book. Stolen. By you. The book. The spell. The body. Reunite. The voice boomed in my head. I don't know what you mean. The book I sent you out with the other night. The one you didn't give them. It's some old spell books, supposedly written by the Salt Sisters. It's one of the books. It's in one of the boxes. Okay, Heidi, you just stay there and I'll find it. I rummaged through one of the books. Through one of the boxes. There were a lot of books, but none seemed to be by the Salt Sisters. I could feel the invisible eyes of the ghostly entity burn into me like hot coals as I fumbled through the junk. Hurry! Do not waste time, rat. Look, I'm trying, okay? You didn't really organize this stuff well. That's because I'm going to burn it. Sorry, I just might have helped right now is all. Not really a time for you to be hecking about my organization, missy. Do not bicker. The mask. Find it. Small rat. Small white rat. Don't even know what it looks like. It's black and old. Fortunately, there was only one book in amongst the scattered artifacts that fit that description. Okay, here it is. My fingers trembled as I picked up the book. The Grimoire of the Salt Sisters. It looked old enough to be the original and radiated malevolence from its crumbling pages. Yes, the book, the forbidden words, the sisters, the body, reunite. I don't know what it is you want. This book is so long and Before I could finish, the gold mist of the ghost plucked the book from my hands and flicked through the pages impossibly fast. The pages stopped turning. The voice boomed louder than before. The spell! Cast! The body! Do it now! Do it now! The shop seemed to shake with every word. Cyber Dracula Pushy burst in a shower of wool and lead. The sound of cans imploding boomed from inside the vending machine. Speak it now! 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 The voice repeated in my head, drumming the orders into me as if my mind began to cloud once more. The page seemed to list the words to some terrible spell. I dare not write them here. I read them aloud, trying as hard as I could not to understand what I said. With each word, my mind ached. Stories always told about the price for performing magic, and I could see now it was no lie. I could only hope my actions that day did not cost me my soul, if indeed I still have one. As the last words of the spell left my lips, the shop began to violently shake. Trixie, get back! Heidi pulled me to her, and we ducked behind the shop counter. I could see in her eyes that after hearing the dark spell from me, Heidi felt afraid of me, even if she hid it. The room pulsed with golden light. I shut my eyes, but there was not enough to keep the gold from seeping in. Whispers filled my mind, the regal speech of Carcosa, descriptions of the forbidden era, and inklings of the forbidden knowledge. Threats against the nameless enemy. Fear. The matted figure's tormented mind. Then, as suddenly as the process had begun, it was over. The room was silent, and golden light was absent. Is it over? Oh look, stay still. I was glad Heidi had volunteered. I tried to think what we might see. Heidi didn't say much. Whether that was good or bad, I wasn't sure, but I decided to take a look. Inside the room, standing with their own muscles and smiling at us with that wicked grin, stood the matted figure. Ah, my friends, you have been most useful. The bargain is complete. The figure began to leave the shop, walking clumsily on their weak legs. And you aren't coming back? The figure paused, their back to us. They looked over their shoulder, straight into Heidi's eyes. You have my word. Before either of us could respond, the figure stumbled out of the shop. Heidi sighed and patted me on the shoulder. You okay, Trixie? I knew I wasn't. I knew what walked underneath that cloak. Even imagining it was enough to make me shiver. To look upon the warped face of a sheep was an awful thought. Okay. So it was a sheep? How could such a creature have come to exist? And yet I knew that it was as natural as I. Which begged the question, why were no other sheep like it? I shook the thoughts from my head. I just wanted this to be over. Yeah, I'm fine. Heidi looked at the mess of books, amulets, and other tat thrown across the room with a sigh. That was a week of organizing down the drain. So, I guess I need to clean this up. It's all kind of lost its charm now that I know some of it actually is evil incarnate. You okay to help me? We can burn it. I took time. It was a little bit longer till the moon was out. I could help for a bit, sure. I don't really fancy going outside yet. Anyway, I'd rather give that person some more time to get as far away as possible. For sure. Come on, let's get the stuff packed up and flammable. We started reading through the mess. It was a lot easier to sort through it now. That was just straight to the burning box. Okay. With that, I'm gonna end it there. Cause, shoo, that was a lot. I was not expecting like half of that. It got dark and ominous and dreadful all in one. That was a lot of information. Something's coming from the lake, I guess. I don't know. With that though, I'm gonna leave it here. I love you all. I hope you are staying safe. Subscribe, hit the like buttons, do the things and the stuff. You know the drill. You got this. You got this. You're awesome. I love you all. I'll see you later. Bye.